I told Ross, I can't believe this Hobbit hole. I'm so curious how much it costs to build this thing.
Julie said
Where did they find
really good reviews?
Yeah.
Should we do 2 nights? Should we just do it? I don't even know. It's got good reviews.
I think one is good. It'll make us really enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Really got to
check-ins at
spoke it
3.
in that way.
Check-ins at 3. We could probably get there at 2:30.
Nauvoo.
Sure.
Nauvoo's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Nauvoo. This sort of feels like Siloam Springs, where it's Forgotonia. It's Forgotonia, Illinois. But after I made the reservation, I had a dream that night that there were some goats outside. And then the host was like there trying to explain things. And Ross just like collapses on the floor and sort of just like rolling around in delight. There's also costumes to dress up as hobbits, she says.
That's a little weird.
What if we wake up in the middle of the night? What if we wake up in the middle of the night and Ross is dressed up, standing in the corner?
I'm convinced I'm actually Samwise Gamgee.
Well, anything else to share? It's a sharing circle.
I don't think so.
It was nice catching up with Eric.
Yeah, what's Eric up to these days?
Well, as Mike knows, he lives in Rolla, Missouri. It was kind of interesting catching up with him because it's been so long since I've seen him. But we were friends in college. I was a reader at their wedding. But it was weird. I don't think I've seen him. I know this is like a weird mind game.
Eric Verdine?
I don't think I've actually seen him since before I met Schultz.
Whoa.
Wait,
isn't that
really?
a weird?
That's
crazy. How did I meet Eric Verdine? And you haven't seen him since then.
Now that you say that, I can think of a couple times when I've seen him since we met.
I was going to say.
Ish. Before Schultz, ish.
Yeah.
It was just a weird, my point was so much life has happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did travel together to go see Danny. And I guess there's probably been a handful of times I've seen him. I haven't seen him since before I was in junior high. But no, that was my news.
Tonight is all 4 members on the call. Michael Schaefer, Ross Johnson, Matt Schultz, and Landon Fry are all here.
Free.
From every direction.
What, you were going to be like, I met you on this podcast. It was our first podcast.
It'll give you perspective. I've been back and forth.
Stories and heroes and things, and I'm like, okay, this is like a situation where heroes will emerge in some way, shape, or form.
It goes every direction.
So you guys asked if I prepped for tonight's podcast. I've created what I call the bridge.
I've been afraid some days.
That music just brings back fond memories of, the look on their face. When they played that song, they went back in time.
And we're back. Final episode of Speeches by Small Towners. Gang's all here. You'll notice there's fewer gang members missing the past year or so. I think they're starting to take things a little more seriously, finally. Matt, what do we got on the docket?
Oh, a little old speech by a small town man named Bilbo Baggins. Concerning Hobbits, a early scene in the extended edition of Lord of the Rings. So for all those losers who have the regular version, you'll need to get the extended edition to really know what we're talking about. But you can probably find
Fellowship of the Ring?
YouTube. Yes, in the Fellowship of the Ring. So first of the
is it the
trilogy.
First movie?
Yes. Yep.
So
First
is it
of
the
the
opening
trilogy.
scene?
I don't think it's the opening scene. I think the very early, very opening scene is there's the Galadriel narrator voice kind of describing other big picture plot things, and then it goes to the Shire.
So without further ado, let's listen to the speech.
All right. So here's my monologue. We ready?
Oh, yeah, but I still like hearing you read the speech. Get me in the zone.
Oh, you still want me to?
for us.
Okay.
Just for us.
Just for you guys. There and back again. A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. Now, where to begin? Ah, yes, concerning hobbits. Hobbits have been living and farming in the 4 farthings of the Shire for many hundreds of years, quite content to ignore and be ignored by the world of the big folk. Middle-earth being, after all, full of strange creatures beyond count. Hobbits must seem of little importance, be neither renowned as great warriors, nor counted amongst the very wise. In fact, it has been remarked by some that Hobbits' only real passion is for food. A rather unfair observation, as we also have developed a keen interest in the brewing of ales and the smoking of pipeweed. But where our hearts truly lie is in peace and quiet and good tilled earth. For all hobbits share a love of all things that grow. And yes, no doubt to others our ways seem quaint. But today, of all days, it is brought home to me. It is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life. All right.
Where are you getting this from?
What?
What do you mean?
I tried to follow along. What are you reading from?
The very
This is
top.
the
Paragraph
very
1.
top.
Not from the book, damn it! From the book.
So it's not from the book, it's from the movie. But I'm
From the
pretty sure
movie.
the words are in the book somewhere.
Oh, well.
I want to say they sampled.
Concerning
at the
Hobbits is the very first of the prologue.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
not I don't believe this exact series of words is in the book. I would bet there are at least chunks or sentences from
It's
the book.
fine. Leave it. Shut up.
But
Leave
anyway, Peter Jackson.
Man, this sort of compromises my vision then.
Really?
That it's not in the book.
I mean, this isn't Tolkien's words. These are Peter Jackson's words. Whoever wrote this
Jackson
film.
arranged them. It makes
This is
perfect
a
sense.
speech by
He
a
captures
big
it.
city. Woo woo.
All right.
It might be
Okay,
there.
what have you-
Okay.
What have you got to say in your monologue?
All right, here we go. You've heard of the Rorschach test, a famous test developed by Swiss psychologist Hermann Rorschach, who utilizes the subject's interpretation of ink blots as a means of gaining insight into their psyche. I think certain movies, books, and stories, especially the good ones, have a unique capacity to serve as a Rorschach test. Some stories make you explore your own heart as much as you explore the plot, the characters, and the story arc. In particular, I have found The Lord of the Rings to be a uniquely helpful test for my general maturity and growth. In my early days post Lord of the Rings, I was in college, fighting the orcish fiends of partying too hard, pornography, and taking the initial steps into the developing a spiritual life. My interest largely lied in the battles in the film and books. In my post-seminary, rock climbing, hiking, dating, daydreaming of a homestead phase, it was the natural elements, the greenery of the Shire contrasted with the rocky dryness of Mordor, the Ents, and the fact that each of the major groups or major people in the Lord of the Rings had a natural symbol, the horse for Rohan, the leaf for Lothlorien, the tree of Gondor. That really spoke to me. But more recently, it has been the Shire. Living in a humble home with a small yard with kids rapidly filling it out has made me much more appreciative of the humble life of the Hobbits. While the younger me would have erred on the side of harshness toward the leisurely folk of the Shire, sitting back, letting the rangers protect them, heads in the sand, I now know that I'm much more a hobbit than a ranger. I think there's a reason why the epic quest to save Middle-earth begins with Tolkien's detailed description of the humble hobbits. There is something about the life of the Shire that, while not explicitly spiritual, exudes a sort of Sabbath reverence and receptivity towards God's goodness that rightly serves as the beginning and the end of the great adventure. So let us leisure together to sit back, grab a drink, and join our small hobbit hole of the podcast world.
You're right.
So,
It's a good.
Good way to wrap up the quad. High praise on the selection.
hey, thanks. I appreciate it. So what was your guys' first impression? Not of the speech. We'll talk about that more later, but just of Lord of the Rings, right? We've all seen the movies. I know Ross and I have read the books. Mike, I don't know if you've read the books or not, but we've all seen the movies. What was your first impression?
Not really.
Okay. Not really to the books, but yeah. Yeah. What was your first impression of seeing the Lord of the Rings? And do you remember, how much, or do you remember that?
I think the person with the least interesting answer should go first. I've always liked the idea of the Lord of the Rings and the aesthetics of it. The books, first memories, The Hobbit I did read first. I remember it was like 5th grade. Did you guys have accelerated reader programs in grade school?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta read the book, then you take the quiz, and you get the points.
Were you in it?
Who was in
And then you get the
accelerated
girl.
reading?
What?
Who was in accelerated reading?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I
Well,
must have read it at the
well,
regular
everyone
reading
did.
days.
Accelerated you get like little
Were
it
you
was
the
like a
gifted
thing.
program?
No, it was like a reading incentive thing. You just kind of take a quiz in the library computer, and then you get points. And if you get enough points, you get little trinkets and things. Anyway.
Yeah, but you had to get a certain number of points as part of your reading grade.
Right.
No idea what you're talking about. Literally no idea.
Yeah. Y'all went into the book learning and
We're just trying to read.
Well, in the big
Just
city
read.
where I grew up, we spoke Latin.
We were more interested in smoking pipes.
Anyway, remember reading the Hobbit. I remember not doing well on the AR quiz. You had to get like at least a 65% to get point. I remember the Hobbit was like a 20-point book if you got 100% on the quiz. I think I got 65, so that meant I got 13 measly points after all that time on that book. But yeah, I've not read the other books. Have seen the films because Ross sort of made me. I did really enjoy Ross reading from. Which ones did you read from on our canoe trip?
Definitely Fellowship, possibly The Hobbit as well.
Yeah,
Save
was
his
great.
voice. Save his voice for the most profound. Don't make him do rhetorical stuff. Okay. Ross, profound sentences only from here on out. We want to hear them.
And the films, I remember seeing the first bit of film. It was New Year's Eve 2002, and we were all still sort of euphoric from surviving Y2K just 2 years before. We were at Mark and Janice's, and they were playing The Lord of the Rings on their flat screen HD TV. And I thought that was really cool looking.
2002? Whoa.
Yeah. They lived on a golf course. They still live on the same golf course. Yeah, I definitely like that charm. I like those green vibes of the Shire, and sort of left me curious and wanting more.
I have so much to say, but movies were my first introduction to The Lord of the Rings. Absolutely loved them, albeit simply for the awesome quest and fight scenes, probably high school age. Got into the books. I'm pretty sure I'd read all the books by the time I graduated high school, because I remember trying to read the Silmarillion in my mom and dad's van when we were driving out to Colorado.
When we met.
When I met Landon.
Mhm.
Actually, this is fun. On me and Julie's honeymoon, when we were literally sheltering in a hurricane shelter, I was reading The Fellowship of the Ring. I remember something, but no, loved the movies. Then I read the books, really liked the books, probably for a similar reason, the overall badassery of some of the characters, but like in like a virtuous, noble way, as opposed to like a beat you down type of way.
Were you reading the books for the first time on the honeymoon? So you had seen the movies and you were just getting.
Oh no, I'd read the books by then. That was a reread.
Okay. Gotcha.
I feel like I just got deeper into it the more I kept going. So I read some books about the books. A sign of how good the books are is that I've read them multiple times, and subsequent readings, I feel like I get more out of them. I was actually just talking to Rob this weekend, and I was trying to like explain a really deep thought I had about formation of men. And I literally used an analogy from The Lord of the Rings. And his response was like, I totally get it.
Do you remember what the analogy was? Are you allowed to answer speak? Landon, may he speak?
I was trying to describe to him, like, as you mature, what different books you might read or might become appropriate. So books that like you might have a really awesome book, but it might just not be appropriate for someone yet, or like vice versa. There might be a book that at a certain stage of life seems not great, but earlier may have been really instrumental. And I used the scene from The Return of the King. The books, the movies cut this out. When the Rangers ride up on Aragorn riding with the Rohirrim, and they describe the Rangers of the North looking older than the Rohirrim. And I don't want to give too much away, but kind of as a sign of like not explainable yet obvious like maturity. That was the analogy.
Sure.
Fully other end of the spectrum here. Deep Winter Nights 3 weeks ago. It's not even like I think I saw 20 seconds of a scene and that's it. Like, I feel like it's never played on TV, really. Maybe I missed it, but have never seen it.
They don't want
never
it to play, Landon. They don't want it to play.
Yeah. So we did click up and we bought HBO Max for Brant's, my son's kind of paternity leave here. Is like a lot of late night feedings. Should we watch a show or something? And so I was like, well, Lord of the Rings is right here. So I did watch the first two in full. And then I kind of fast forwarded through the extended version of the third. It just, you guys, pretty much every Christian I know, Lord of the Rings. So it's just, there's such a high bar set that I don't think it could have realistically overcome it.
That would be hard.
I thought maybe I'd see Christ like on the screen at some point, given the expectation. I wasn't there. I knew it was. I knew Tolkien's like, oh, it's got to be like wrapped up in, great analogies. And Lewis is like, oh, it can be, the lion is Christ. So I knew some of that stuff, and I think that held true. I since learned, like, as soon as I watched the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, this is about World War I. Simple, JR heavily, he even wrote it in his foreword on the 58 reprinting, like, this is not allegory. Don't look at it with the World War events. Gonna have to agree with the author there. Total BS. We can totally imply civilizational things onto the story. But yeah, a lot of battles. I was kind of more interested in the dialogue parts in between the battles. I do think that the kingdoms and the falls and fourth reigns, there's a lot of historical things you can apply over that. I'll leak them out over the course of this episode when I hear the themes come up. And then finally, to end, I did fast forward through the last movie because I'm like, this just seems like a big battle, and I want to see the ring fall into the fire. Let's get to the end. Like, how does it end?
Sure.
And I was very surprised at the end. I did not think Frodo would sail to America. So, I'll end with that.
In the extended edition, Donald Trump welcomes him.
I was going to say Donald Trump. Donald Trump. I was going to say
the reigning, like the rulers and the intellects that the elves represent were the best of that world, and they left and they came west to America. That is basically. And so we got the best, and then the men of that world stayed in continental Europe. So, that clearly, I think that's what he was going for.
Yeah, my first exposure. So there was a girl I was dating in college who she was the one who showed them to me and like made sure that I watched them. She wasn't overly nerdy about it. I remember them striking me as meaningful, but it was probably just too much to unpack at once. I think I had my guard up in general. I wasn't like a huge like fantasy movie guy. Wizards and hobbits and elves, just that nature didn't strike me immediately as something I'd be interested in. So I maybe had a little bit of a guard up, but it was like, okay, this is really, really good. I could tell there's some quality there. I think it was, certainly rooming with Ross, who is probably a resident expert on Lord of the Rings, but also just rooming with Joe Olafson, who also loved it and is a very different person and different beliefs. And I just think seeing the contrast of like, wow, these two people, like I really respect, but they're very different and they both like this same thing. And that's what, that's what made me really start to invest. That's what made me read the books. It was, I believe, Lord of the Rings was the first non-school related book I had read. It was kind of a good thing to kind of reawaken me to reading, especially fiction. Like, I don't know that I'd read any fiction in a long, long time prior to that. So that's Lord of the Rings. Let's talk about the Shire, right? That's what the speech is about. Speeches by small towns. If we had to be somewhat concise, right? Because I think there's a lot more than just kind of talking about plot points of the movie. What would you say the Shire represents in the movie? Yeah. What does it mean? What does it stand for?
Prior time in a prior way of living.
When I think of the Shire, I think of like simplicity, but in a really, really good way. As far as like just what a like, I don't even know the words to articulate it, but how a simple life is good and true and beautiful. That's what I think of. I also think of the Hobbits smoking pipes and just laughing and drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I guess a few things. One, I love the line about the only real passion is for food, right? Possibly the most human passion there is, right? We all have to eat to survive, but there's so much, culture, skill. There's a seasonality to cooking, traditionally at least. There's an art. There's it's a human passion there. But just all of the things hobbits are into: the brewing of ales, the smoking of pipe weed. I think Bilbo's birthday party just strikes as a uniquely human experience. And I think the speech, maybe I'm getting too much into the speech, but I think just beautifully written, witty, self-deprecating. Yeah, just that I feel like that all wraps up the Shire, right? I kind of alluded it in the monologue, but almost has a little bit of like a Sabbath restful feel to it. That I think it really just embeds like leisure, right? And what do the hobbits bring to the movie? Like they kind of bring this like not just comedic relief. It's not like they're making outlandish jokes or making fools of themselves. It's just they're actually acting themselves, and it's just refreshingly humble and simple. And like, I can just picture a number of scenes where Aragorn just kind of smiles like really joyfully at like the hobbit's behavior. Yeah, and there's just this innocence that is there's this kind of leaving and departing the Shire, right? And there's kind of departure from innocence, but also a return to it that you need to make as well. And I think there's kind of a leaving, returning dynamic meaningful with the Shire in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is the scouring of the Shire?
Gosh.
That's where we're gonna go next.
Who's Frodo? Hold on.
Gosh.
Can I?
Frodo.
Hold on.
Who's Frodo? Why can't he just wear the ring?
Is Michael Jordan the guy who with the crazy hair dyes his hair?
So I'm gonna bite on who's Frodo for a second, and then if we want to answer Mike's question, the battle is so bad it didn't even make the extended cuts. So when you like look up, I like went to Frodo's Wikipedia page after reading it because I'm like, why did he go to America? What does that mean? But like you get into this like the entire universe behind the genius of Tolkien, and it was like Frodo's name kind of didn't mean anything, but it also probably comes from all the work of the medieval author Sax Grammaticus. Have you guys heard any of this? But so Sax Grammaticus is like guy who wrote a bunch in 1100, and so he wrote novels, of which he wrote a novel called Amleth, which is what Shakespeare used to make Hamlet. And anyway, I feel like with every single word and plot point and name with Tolkien, there is probably like this deep vein of old literature that he did have the time and ability to pull forward into this one story. And so I just found it weird. It's like he's inspired by the guys in the books that Shakespeare had pulled off the dusty shelf, 400 and 800 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, the scouring. Go ahead.
Let's just get this over with. Matt, explain to him what it was.
It was the Bolshevik Revolution.
Kind of. Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far off. So basically the hobbits, so they leave Middle-earth, they do their adventure. When they come back, the Shire is not the Shire as they knew it. The Shire had basically been taken over. The Shire had been taken over by, spoiler alert, Saruman flees to the Shire in the book. He and Wormtongue both actually. So in the movie, Wormtongue jumps off I forget. Wormtongue gets killed, whatever, and then Saruman kills himself or something. But in the book, they kind of flee, but they go to the Shire. They basically take over and they run it as if it were a communist country or communist nation, whatever. So it's poorly run. Everyone's kind of hungry. It's very bleak. All of the kind of natural charm of the Shire is kind of hidden. I want to say Samwise Gamgee's dad is kind of this, seems to be like the lone spark plug guy trying to get things going to push back, but he can't quite do it. So the Hobbits come back, and they've obviously grown in courage and virtue and all these things on their journey. And they basically lead the rebellion and take back the Shire. That's the scouring of the Shire.
Awake, awake, fear, fire, foes, awake, fire, foes, awake.
So is this basically at the very end?
This is the very end. Yeah, when they all come back. Yeah, when the 4 hobbits come back, they.
I mean, that sounds like it could have been a 4th movie. How long does this take in the book?
1 chapter.
It's a chapter.
That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like they got the ring, but their last battle was to restore peace at home.
Yeah. Yep. And then spoiler alert again, they win. They take back the Shire. Saruman and Wormtongue I forget what their final end is, if they somehow die or if they, but yeah, so it never made it into the movie. Word on the street from Peter Jackson was that it would have been a hard production thing to produce. So he mentioned production difficulty and also just the length of the films. Length of the film seems like a legit enough reason to not include it. There's something about a trilogy that kind of just makes sense, and there's already quite a bit captured in the film. There's some folks saying that Hollywood would not appreciate a chapter that's rather, that basically makes communism look bad and makes like that sort of stuff. There's too many commies in Hollywood, basically, that they wouldn't stand for that, and Peter Jackson wouldn't, would be blacklisted or something if he
not allowed to depict the restoration of the Shire.
Anyway, there's some rumors out there, some prominent people, I want to say, have put that out there as a theory. But anyway, that's the scouring of the Shire. Ross, am I off? Yeah, tell me if I'm off on that, or if you've heard anything else about why it did or didn't make it. But
I just assumed it was for time. But
yeah, that could be. I think it's a long movie. I think that much makes some sense. Which may be an interesting follow-up question, because I think this could be an interesting debate. Which is more important, the leaving of the Shire or the return to the Shire? Right? So the leaving of the Shire, leaving this sort of innocent, ignorant existence, right? I think the Shire is a beautiful thing, but there is a certain dynamic of that, right? They don't care about the outside world, no interest. They're just sitting around smoking their pipe weed. So there's kind of a leaving that. But then there's the return to the Shire, right? Where that's what they're fighting for the whole time, right? That's what they want. That's what they're longing for the whole time. And then that's the return. That's kind of their final home. Yeah. What's the more important part?
The second's predicated on the first. I don't know if I get the question.
Can we say, is it better to stay and never leave, or is it better to leave and never come back, if you will?
Yeah, maybe that's a better question. I
feel like you gave 2 bad answers.
Yeah.
Stay and never leave.
Well,
leave.
Yeah, but it's a leading. It's obviously
Option
a leading.
C, please.
Shush.
Option C,
We all
please.
I think we all understand the question. It just depends what we would
obviously breaking the question apart, it will say, it's best to leave and come back. Like you get it. That's
Yeah.
I think that's where Matt wants to end up. Obvi.
Sure.
I mean, me and
All right. Well, we answer that
me and Ross
question. We can just
the only.
All right, I'll tell a story to add
Let's
some
play
color
with
to
it for a second. Okay,
Wait,
tell the
what?
story. Add color.
tell the story. Yeah, tell the story.
So we in our high school, we had a tradition where the principal of the school and like a couple of like the more influential older male teachers would take the senior guys to lunch. So it was like whatever, 25 of us. It's like, last month of senior in high school, we went out to the local restaurant. They opened it just for us. And then like the principal and all these guys kind of gave a little 2-3 minute spiel just on life, matters of growing up, etc. A very kind of pretty masculine thing that was kind of cool. But I do remember a little part from one of the teachers. He just kind of like blatantly said, you guys, you think sex is everything, and like that's what you're looking forward to, but it's not going to be too many days from now where you're probably just going to look more forward to the meal you're going to eat or the next pork chop sandwich. That was like a funny quip from the line. And then I wrote that in our notes, and then I watched the scene, and in the scene where it's like we prefer food over we love for food, like the Hobbit is like about to kiss a woman and he turns and he like grabs the food. So I thought that was a funny visual comparison that added color to even my line in my head. And then the heart of kind of what the message was from one of the local town guys in their senior talk. He was a pretty famous comedian. He opened for like Bono or U2, honestly, some huge name. You can basically Google this guy, and he's got a bunch of YouTube videos. Well, he came back and he like redid a couple downtown buildings, etc. And he's like, the point is like you need to go. You have to go leave. In order for whatever this little town to be kind of what it is, whatever little pride we have, like you got to come back to and like repaint the buildings. And I thought that was like a really cool, interesting message that was kind of like the last thing said to the guys before we graduated school.
I mean, I can comment a little bit just on some of the dynamics of leaving and returning to the Shire, i.e. Freeburg, because they do stand out to me quite a bit. There was, I think I've talked about this on another podcast, but typically the way that we would go from home to Champaign was as you left Freeburg, you would take the back way down Cemetery Road, and then that would give way to the park on your right, the town park, and then you'd descend into the little valley of the sort of the major exposed sandstone around Freeburg. Then you come up out of that hill, and then the fields would open up to that just wide landscape that would just extend the rest of the way to central Illinois, central Illinois, essentially. So it had just this very natural, like visual pedagogy, if you will. And I just remember, the excitement, the anticipation of going up there to U of I, and my sister Lauren coming with us, me and my parents. I mean, I came back for, generally they say, you stay up there or stay at school until Thanksgiving. But we had, I sort of had one more event as a 4-H'er I wanted to do. And it was going on the 4-H canoe trip, which was the first weekend after school started. So the very first weekend after school started, I'd been up there all of 5 days or 6 days. Came back down, missed the freshman retreat, which was probably a bad idea, where you obviously met a lot of people from the Newman Center. But I still remember my mom picking me up, us eating at Garcia's Pizza. Do you guys even remember Garcia's Pizza on Green Street?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. They had such great pan pizza.
Yeah.
Coming back home with my mom, but it was only 5 or 6 days, but already I can still picture coming up Cemetery Road, cresting that hill, and there Freeburg is. And it a week passed without me. The cross country team that I had graduated from ran the cross country practice without me. And there was just this sense like, this is the rest of my life. Freeburg spinning without me.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a similar sense when my parents and sister left my dorm room for the first time. Like, whoa, there's something distinctive that just changed here. I won't talk about this just to not spend too much time talking. But then there's, of course, the return home after that whole saga of undergrad, then Bradley with Matt, then back to graduate school, then 8 or 9 months in South Bend, and kind of always having a certain struggle with homesickness and sort of deciding like I want to go home and start building a professional career at home, and what that return felt like. Interestingly, less sort of, I don't know, jarring in different ways, but yeah, that very first drive home just after a week, I think, had a certain unique flavor to it. Ross, you're the one who returned home the most.
I feel when I think of leave and return, I would have said the return matters more. Because I feel like you leave in order to return, in the sense that the leaving is more like this rite of passage or maturation phase that's not the end in itself. And I think it's a somewhat like teenage rebellion that wants to leave and not return. So I feel like there's a difference between I want to leave almost as an excuse because the town is bad, versus I want to leave to grow because I am not where I need to be, to find this sort of growth that is necessary to then return and build back up where I was. So when I think of the leaving and returning, I mean, yeah, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, but I think you can leave, and I don't know, I think of like the leave and never come back as almost an excuse or running away from, versus the point is you leave to be changed and to grow. And then you return to actually contribute. Yeah, so I don't remember the original question, honestly, but I feel like, at least based on the outline question, I'm the return side of things.
So I would say I'm more on the leaving side of things. And perhaps because I didn't come from a small town, right? I could see that being a dynamic. I feel like me returning to Naperville, I feel like there's what am I returning to? I'm returning to more transient people and more just, big box stores and money flying around. And, I don't know if it feels like there is an identity of the town I grew up in that actually remains, So maybe that's, maybe that's partly why. But I think just movie wise, if they had never left the Shire, right, the events of Middle Earth are still going to go down. And let's just say they find another way to destroy the ring or something. I don't know, does Saruman and Wormtongue still take over the Shire, right? Then who's there to scour it? If Sam and Frodo and Pippin and Merry are all, they never really grew, Like what then? This innocence ends up being corrupted permanently, as opposed to like you. And I think there's something like I guess I've heard the term like protect in regards to parenting. Like you protect to inject, right? You protect your kids so they're properly formed, so that like later in life they're injected into the world and they can do good in it, right? As opposed to like, oh, you're sheltering your kid. You don't want to shelter your kid. You want to give, but then like, all right, well, you're exposing them to stuff that they really shouldn't be exposed to. You're exposing them to stuff that makes them just kind of, doubt for doubt's sake, or you expose them to things that make them question for questioning's sake. And now it's, that undermines all this formation you're doing, right? But you protect them and then you inject them, right? They have to leave. And they have to do something. That particular aspect of parenting doesn't really cover the return or that part of things. But yeah, I do think the leaving, there's something really important about leaving. And that's just like a fundamental thing in a lot of myths too. Like whether it's like Abraham leaving his home at age whatever, when he's super old, and then that's when he just accesses the promised land, right? Just the whole leaving innocence, leaving comfort is I think that's a really meaningful aspect of the film and of just a lot of stories. I definitely see the return. They are two sides of the same coin, but I think that especially in the small town episode, the return is an important part. I feel like we're at a pivot point. We could go a few different directions. I don't know if there's I guess the things I highlighted in green are the things that seemed to maybe have traction based on what you guys were writing in the outline. So I don't know if there's something in particular that you guys really want to get into.
I'll talk for a second because this is what I'm good at. Getting this back in. We have.
Hold on. Can I get a drink? Get a drink.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Okay, Ross, bring us back.
Okay. We haven't really bitten into it yet. This is where I'm good at. I'm good at saying what we're not doing
good.
well.
We're nibbling. We're nibbling on the edges. We need to sink our teeth.
I've got a big bass nibbling on my lure right now.
He's like, you guys quit being
like, I haven't. Okay, so I like the Lord of the Rings, but like I haven't heard like why. Shut up, Mike.
What is labor?
3 things I haven't heard yet. Number 1, like why would they be willing to die and come back to the Shire? Like, what is so great about it?
Yeah.
Number 2, Matt, I'm calling you out here. This is your episode.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I haven't heard like why you picked it. I know that sounds lame. Like, you're excited about this episode. You were up the other night till 11:15. I haven't gotten there yet. And then I haven't heard like Landon all this civilizational stuff. I liked where we went with this guy. We haven't even gotten to your supplementary.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know
you ready
the
for the final
question.
bell then?
Like, wait I haven't heard the question yet.
Wait, what was the first thing you said you hadn't heard?
No. I don't know. I don't know what the question is. Wake
But
up.
he wants to hear a little more why, and he wants to hear culture versus civilization.
Matt, why did you choose this?
Yeah.
And then culture and civilization. Mike, wake up. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go, boys. We got
Let's go. Let's do
according
this.
to Peter Craig, this is one of the best 2 novels of all time. I've got him. I've got them all right here in my hands.
All right. So why this speech?
Matt, don't
why,
podcast
why
scared.
the Shire?
Why the speech?
Why the speech? Why the Shire? So I mentioned the Rorschach test, right? I think we've all talked about just our early experiences, right? We're all interested in the battles, right? Landon, this was your first experience. You weren't interested in the battles, right? Which I think is maybe a mark of maturity, right? We're all in a spot now where we've been there, we've done that. We don't need to see people fight, right? We kind of know what that's like. We're interested in seeing how people live, right? How do you live a good life? Just things like, how do you live the Sabbath is actually a much more important question to me now, right? How do you teach your kids to understand that? How do you ingrain that in them, right? Those are the important questions for me right now. What is actually a good use of my time, right? Like we're all 35 to 36 years old, pretty close to halfway done with our lives. We're halfway done with our lives. And if you haven't figured out how to live well, it's like, what the hell are you doing? Right. And I feel like that's where, so there's a few interesting meditations here that I think are worth pondering. So one, just this epic grand adventure, the fight for the survival of Middle Earth, right? Or the civilized world, whatever you want to describe it as, starts with this description of the ordinary life of hobbits. That alone, I think, is worth meditating on. Ross, I know you mentioned in just past conversations how you didn't appreciate the Shire the first time. You're like, gosh, it's so long. When are they going to leave the Shire? Come on. But you appreciate that a lot more just with more maturity, right? These things are more meaningful. Tom Bombadil somehow makes more sense, even though he's still a little mysterious and odd. Other things like that.
And who's Tom Bombadil if we have time?
There's not time.
Yeah, there's not time. There's not time. No one knows who Tom Bombadil is. Yeah. So maybe another analogy or like spiritual insight that I think kind of applies here. So I was recently, 5-6 months ago, I was reading about John the Baptist, and he's just obviously striking figure, kind of cool. When I read whatever passage it was, probably, locusts and wild honey living out in the wilderness, I felt jealous about how badass John the Baptist is. And I just kind of felt crappy about like, gosh, I need to be more badass. Like, why am I unhappy with how, or why am I jealous? Why is there this disconnect there? Right. He's this badass Aragorn type, right? If we're going to talk Lord of the Rings. And family life doesn't really lend itself to that type of badassery. How does John the Baptist die? Beheaded, of course, right? But what gets him beheaded? He's in a scene where these rich king people, whatever, Herod, right, is having this young girl dance sexually for this big group of people. So there's an affront to like femininity. Right. Apparently this girl's mother is in attendance, right? Because like the girl goes up to her mother and asks for John's head on the platter, whatever. There's this dynamic. So this woman is watching her daughter dance sexually for this in front of a big crowd. The king is cheating on someone, and John the Baptist calls him out on all of this. Yeah. So there's all this like male, female, family, sexual dysfunction going on. John the Baptist calls it out, and that's what gets him beheaded. Basically, John the Baptist is defending family life, and that's what he dies for. Yeah, I feel like he's defending the Shire. Like he is an Aragorn figure, and that's his role in salvation history, right? But what is he defending, right? He's defending what I'm doing, defending what I was doing, but somehow wasn't satisfied with. Like that's my own fault, right? It's not because there's actually anything not satisfying about my life. But the hobbits are like so far beyond that. They're like, this is satisfaction, and of course we're happy here. Why wouldn't we be happy in the Shire, right? Perhaps you could say they do that, or at least the hobbits that don't go on the adventure, that don't leave. Perhaps some of them do that to a fault.
I think we peeled back a layer there. Good question, Ross.
Yeah, we got a layer back. As I'm prepping for the podcast, I listened to Peter Kraft on Pints with Aquinas. And I don't remember his exact words, But I first heard Peter Crave talk when he came to the Newman Center at U of I when we were in college, probably roughly 2011. But
I remember you coming back from that all hopped up on prayer.
it just rocked my world. And he was on the Pints with Aquinas podcast on talking how kind of talks about how common sense can teach you more than these really smart philosophers. But he admits how smart the philosophers are. Even hearing this talk here, or what Matt just said, there's something about the Shire that's just well, yeah, we all recognize from a common sense standpoint how that is the good life. And I actually think this is Peter Kraft as well. He talks about how very close to the end of the Lord of the Rings, Samwise Gamgee goes home and he's got a wife and kids and his daughter sitting on his lap. And somehow in a page, Tolkien describes why we would actually fight a war.
Right.
As far as layers and what's put into that. The hobbits don't go searching. When they leave, the leave and the return. They don't go leaving searching a fight. They definitely find one. And that changes them in order to come home. I mean, I still think we're not sinking our teeth into it correctly. So maybe Mike or Landon, instead of going to work tomorrow, can explain to us where our teeth should be.
Well, so for the Lord of the Rings experts, just on what you said, why do they leave? It's to destroy the
There's
ring.
A ring, Landon.
I know. It wasn't obvious when they had this ring that it was the token of all evil. They were ring.
That's good.
Maybe we should leave the Shire. I didn't really get a strong plot point of we have to leave and go destroy this now at that point in the movie.
I mean, Gandalf makes it clear there's something mysterious about this ring that warrants investigation, and that Frodo is in danger.
So it's you're in possession of this thing that has great mystery that should compel you to go chase it outside of town.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I think
the road
there is
goes ever on and on.
Trying to
down from the
Petersonize
door
it.
where it began. Now far ahead, the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with weary feet until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet. And whether then,
is the whole book a poem?
There's poems throughout it. Yeah. But so that's why Frodo leaves, right? But why do the rest of them leave? And it's because they love each other. You know? There is a brotherhood that does compel that Sam won't leave Frodo. And then Merry and Pippin just kind of happen upon him and they're hey, we're going it is rather I think it is a rather superficial decision on them on the front end, but the underlying crux of it is this brotherhood and friendship,
which is maybe wrong.
Another
providential. It's not superficial; it's providential.
It's you leave for college for the mystery. It's oh, friends are gone. Why would we stay around here at 18? Let's go. Let's go burn some rings.
I think this is a nice point. Burn the cities down. I think this is a nice point then. I think I'm about to take my shirt off to wake Mike up, but this is a nice point then. The culture civilization thing, Landon. Sorry, Matt, I don't want to overtake you.
No. Nice let's do it. I think this is a segue.
Culture versus civilization. Landon, go ahead.
Culture versus civilization. A timely Twitter thread, sensationalizingly summarizing Oswald Spengler, who I've heard a lot about, Can't say I've read his work. Don't feel what?
Ross took his shirt off
Oh,
to
sorry.
try to titillate me.
This Twitter poster, it's an Anon account, so I don't feel bad not quoting them. But they say Oswald Spengler, civilization, the West, it's not declining, it's already dead. Big catcher to have you pop open the thread. Couple summaries. The reason it's dead is once a civilization stops having children, it's dead, and it stops having children because it no longer sees the point. A couple other highlights here. Contrasting a culture / the Shire with civilization / the city, which I've equated myself here. We have a culture is a living creative place. It's a living creative phase. It produces cathedrals, great art, deep philosophy, genuine faith. It's rooted in the soil. A civilization is the dying phase. It produces world cities, money worship, sterile intellectualism, and imperial expansion. It is rootless. Man, if you had to summarize this entire quad with the fewest amount of words that touch on every single speech, I mean, there's lines in there that Matt just read from Tolkien. I think that ties into Window really well. So in a dying civilization, the same pattern appears in the cities. Religion fades into philosophy. Philosophy fades into skepticism. Skepticism fades into indifference. The countryside empties, the peasant vanishes, the small town becomes a satellite in the metropolis. Art is a sport for connoisseurs. Literature is a product for jaded urban palates, and money replaces soil as the basis for power. Cuts deep. A little bit of like, this is all infinitely worse because we have the city in our pocket and we stare at it for 4 hours a day, which we, of course, can beat up. Then to the end, just kind of really bringing home the elevation of the Shire in the Hobbit. Basically just says here, the peasant endures, he always has. He, the peasant, is the eternal man, rooted in the soil, bound to his family, independent of every fashion the cities produce. The cities, the empires, the civilizations rise and fall. They always have. The man who plants and builds and raises children persists forever.
Okay, I got not somewhat pushing back, and then just other words. Okay, so commenting on this phenomenon, the saeculum, is that the right word? The saeculum? Isn't that the word for what you're describing here in every civilization? I don't think
that's the actual word, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, Steven is really big on it right now.
I don't think it's a word.
Let me just brief sidebar. Saeculum. Saeculum. Yeah, that's the right word for it. It might be, but it's not exactly what you're talking about. It's something similar. The 4 seasons of the culture. But the idea is like this Polybius fellow warned that this was destroying Greece. Augustus passed this bill trying to force Roman elites to have families. Nothing worked. I'm just a little incredulous. It just feels like I can see modern day people being very self-satisfied, and myself among them. Like, I don't want to say, not mean to say, I don't need a family, blah, blah, blah. But, you can imagine that sentiment to a certain extent. You can feel that sentiment to a certain extent, like family has a certain wildness to it and unpredictability versus being a dink, is predictable.
Sure.
It might be less wild and exciting, but it's predictable. But like ancient Greece, like they had nothing. Like I'm just incredulous that like really this arc took place with them. I'm not like at
I don't get it.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't get it. Which part? I don't get it.
Well, this idea that it's like
He's just saying that
this cycle of religion fading into philosophy, countryside empties, art becomes sport, money replaces oil. It's like, okay, I can see that today, but it's just like ancient cultures. I'm just sort of incredulous how true this was in ancient cultures.
Well, I think Socrates was fair. That's a great point. Terrific analysis.
And so another thought is, something my mom said growing up, and I do strongly believe it's never just one thing.
Right.
Sort of vibe is like, okay, this phenomenon I think has been very true for different cultures in varying extents of the way. Is it more real now? Maybe because this phenomena is like so pervasive in the sense that everyone has so much money, even low middle income poor people have a lot of money, and so it allows them to have a certain incentive to not have families versus ancient Greece. Is like, well, the powerful people may have thought this way because they have all this money and resources, but most of the population didn't. And so if you're destabilizing sort of your leadership, then maybe that can sort of explain things. Okay, we don't really need to go into that. I'm just sort of pushing back on the reality of the phenomenon, because I think there are some people who could read that, and I'm not saying you're trying to say this, but someone could read this phenomenon here. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like the world ending because like Western culture is ending. It's like, well, there are towns in China and Europe that have existed for 4,000 years. And they're the small towns, right? They're the ones who persisted with the lineages of the families year after year. And emperors have come and gone. And yet what has allowed that retention of that history and that heritage are these small satellite towns in the countryside. So it's like you're saying somewhere else in that the notes there, it's like you persist and are optimistic because you know that planting the seeds do bear fruit in this unassuming way in the generations to come.
So I think that point supported what the article said. Like,
yeah, no, I know it did. Yeah. I know it did, yeah.
Like, peasants endure. Yeah. So the peasants endure. The hobbits endure.
Seize the capital.
So I have a question then. Don't podcast scared. So I feel like Mike and I are the closest to like going home.
Yeah.
In the sense of we live relatively close to where I grew up. Matt, you have like left the suburbs for like as a kid from growing up in Illiopolis, like, well, you moved to a city, but like away from the suburbs. But Landon,
away
you
from a
moved
metropolis
farm to the suburbs. And this is not supposed to be like a challenge, like anyone did it wrong. But like, how do you guys actually see this Shire playing out? This Shire in the sense of like the good life, quote unquote, is like your life, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Was it intentional where you went? Was it random and maybe providential where you went? But yeah.
I mean, so me leaving the suburbs, coming to Peoria. Peoria feels it's a decent sized town, but it feels like a small town in that like you will see people out and about. If you meet someone, there's a decent chance you'll see them again at some point or another. It is a city, but it is I think the charming part of Peoria is that it feels like it's a town with an identity, whereas Naperville especially, I think just Naperville's just the exact opposite, in that it is just I think just wealth and transience incarnate, maybe, but not that there aren't good. I mean, yeah, great restaurants. Like I'm sure there's some pockets of community in Naperville, but yeah, I just I didn't have a feel connected to that. And the thing that I think Peoria might offer and might not, like Claire and I have talked about maybe moving out to a smaller area at some point, but but at least there is sort of especially in the Catholic world, there's sort of a subculture, right? That feels a little more like, a little bit more like the Shire, where we know people, we know their parents, our kids are going to know their kids and going to know their parents. And especially being in the homeschooling version of all that, like our kids will be somewhat isolated, I think. Even though it's not we're all in the same neighborhood like the Shire, we're going to be in the same circles like the Shire. I think too, I love the line in the speech about watching things grow. So like Claire and I have really taken to gardening, and I think that's been a kind of a beautiful meditation on, just life, God's providence, God's abundance, and all these things that the Shire kind of represents, maybe. And I mean, maybe fundamental to especially the leaving and returning dynamic is that like I want, and I've been very blessed. I mean, for you guys certainly in particular, but like I've usually been blessed with with friends. Like I really don't know that I've had an era in my life where I've been completely friendless. Sometimes we're better than others. Some friendships have lasted longer than others, but there's something about a community in the Shire, and certainly within like kind of subculture communities in a bigger city, that does lead to true friendship, right? The way the Hobbits had that true friendship led to their adventure, right? Providentially, albeit impulsively, which is impulsive, not in a bad way, right? It's impulses that make you fall in love, right? And that's a good thing. And that leads to adventure. Adventure leads to virtue, and virtue builds something, right? Maybe it involves returning home and building the Shire. But I guess in my case, it's like, well, I just want to build something where a community can last. And in part, the circumstances of my life brought me to Peoria, because if I didn't, it's not like I would have, if I met a girl in the suburbs, like I wouldn't have brought her to Peoria. Like I did meet a girl from Peoria, and it just kind of made sense. Like there's enough of Peoria that kind of charmed me that it made perfect sense for me to come. Okay.
Now, Landon, defend yourself.
Defend yourself.
Apologia. Or we will hang you.
It's a hard defense. I think the way I've thought about it is kind of, I don't know, Mike, you wrote out a lot of perspective. I don't think you read it all of just like your last, maybe we talked about it the last summer in the Shire before college. And I think,
I did read that.
I think I had a lot of those same feelings, perspectives, just being like pretty up for wherever God called me, and kind of along for potentially a lifelong journey. Sometimes I try to do a 2 to 5 year plan, but often it's just like, what's the place to be now? So Going a little bit more tactically, I think what I led off with, culture versus civilization, a culture completely stops when it stops having children. So it's like priority number one to have children, and I chased that first. And then I think where I've settled is pretty Shire like. I think the suburb I live in, couple miles north of Naperville, we can pretty much, we walk to pretty much everything multiple times a day, and just the nature of that is quite Shire like, even if it is somewhat still consumerism. There's aspects of it that are a little bit more 1940s Bedford Falls than 2010, mega malls and suburbia. So I think that's been helpful, maybe for the actual Shire of my life, Havana, Illinois. I'm a little bit like Gandalf with kids. It's like, coming back. Oh, it's like Gandalf's back and he's brought the family. I don't live there, but boy, am I a beloved character in the Shire from time to time. The gray, not the white. I'm more gray. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
I also
Watch
barely know
yourself.
what that means, but I think it's right.
No, that sounds right. Yeah.
Our second pivot. This is up to Matt. I know we might have to lose Mike for this. I knew that coming in though, so I was okay.
Oh, you're asking me what the next pivot is?
No, I have a
I
pivot.
think he's
but
got it. He's got it.
Oh, you have a pivot.
I've
Oh,
got
okay.
it.
Yeah.
That
I'm
face
up
is
for
a
it.
man
Like-
with
I'm
a
game for
statement,
it.
not a question.
I'm game
You
for
see
it.
these
Yeah,
pecs?
let's do it.
I said we might lose Mike, but that's okay. As far as sinking our teeth into a ghost, and to reference Lord of the Rings, awake, awake, fear, fire, foes awake, fear, fire, or fear, foes awake. Like there's this sense of battle, of longing, of war that we need to leave for. But how do we return to the Shire in the sense of like, why is the Shire ultimately what matters? I remember, Mike, I'll see if you remember this, but we were living at Stillwater. And I said, this is like slightly paraphrased, but also pretty darn close. I said something to the effect of like, I feel like happiness is figuring out how, if I'm a small town firefighter, like, why does that matter?
I remember us.
What?
I remember us. I think I might remember that conversation.
And maybe this ties back into the small town and even why it doesn't have to be a small town. It's like, why do you leave? What changes you? Why do you come back? Why is the Shire matter? Like, to tie this into like, how do we be happy right now in 2026? Like, what makes us feel like we have this community or Shire that we can contribute to? And like, if I'm a brand new listener, never heard an episode, like, I feel like I'm starting to get interested. I'm close, but I can't quite buy yet how, Matt in Peoria, Landon in Wheaton, Mike in Columbia, Ross in Springfield are somehow living this Shire out. So I feel like we either need to final bell it and just like leave it in mystery, or go one more pivot.
Talk
I think that's.
But I don't have the answer to where we pivot to.
I mean, the answer I think is one, like just reading the speech again is how you live it out. It's a great little reading the speech is the heart of the matter. Food, merriness, jovialness with neighbor. Yeah, it is kind of weird talking to just two empty screens.
Yeah. I was hoping to have room for my little thing on biking for babies and how we traveled across America like they used to before interstates. Sort of consume America in a different way.
Yeah.
You edited a lot since this afternoon.
I just threw in some other notes.
You're just sort of a content, just like putting out stuff like, look at how much I contributed.
Landon part 2. Oh, look at me.
11 pages. I did listen to our first, because is it our first episode? I know it's not wasn't actually our first episode, but on the podcast list, there's some good in the
first
world.
one
I
that
started
survived.
listening to it. Actually, that might be our cold open, is playing a little audio of that.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because that's where Matt decided he was going to propose. Yeah.
Oh, I unleashed that on the cast? Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm glad Claire never listened.
The heart of the matter.
So did we decide on
Why does it say Mike? Why does it say Mike writing mechanic using the character to write?
Oh, that was just a point I was going to make about like, here's Tolkien writing an epic story where a couple of the key plot points is the character writing the story, which is just maybe it's a story mechanism, or I don't know the term for that, but I just
a literary story.
Literary mechanism. I was just curious what your thoughts were on that mechanism. Have you employed it? Is it juvenile? Is it scholarly? On what spectrum are you for characters writing the story, which is basically just a way for whatever that character is writing about is what you're trying to convey. But by removing it a step, it makes it feel more organic. Like Tolkien could have just come out and said that somewhere. But
well, I mean, the reason I know what a literary story is because that's what Under the Ozark Stars is. Because, right, Mel goes on this adventure because she, like, something inside of her compelled her. It's not because something outside happened necessarily that forced her to do it. She chose to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily like juvenile or not Jew. It's just,
maybe that wasn't the best frame, but so the other reason I pointed that out, if we get to this part, like we were kind of comparing city and small town, I was gonna throw out like, what are Shire values? What exactly are Shire
that is
values?
something.
And I think that when I thought about that, it's like, all right, this Hobbit's, writing down his story, and I think that a sort of Shire value, and it perhaps has to have a contrast to the city and civilization, but a Shire value is our most sacred stories are our own. And we talked about that a little bit in the Wendell episode as well. It's like the most entertaining part of that old country aspect of Wendell was like neighbors going to neighbors' houses and retelling all the stories that they know. And it's Bilbo writing the Hobbit. I think that that's an aspect of the Shire that it's harder to do in the city because everybody doesn't know all the same stories of like the places. Super hard with a transient population, and therefore I submit it as.
I guess if we were to come up with like a question, should we say like what are the values of the Shire, or what things would you emphasize in your life to bring about the Shire? Yeah, how do we want to phrase that?
Yeah, you can go to my
either way, I
cursor.
guess.
I wrote out several.
Okay.
Just we can maybe just debate them rather than try to come up with them our own.
Sure.
Can we make
on this
it Final Bell-ish?
Real quick, before we go to we final bell it, because this is an honest question.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through the outline before we wrap it up. Landon posted something about Ordo Amoris and Imago Dei, and there appears to be heat graphs.
Yeah, Mike asked me to. That's the Latin interpretation. It's the religious principles applied to this map that we threw around a year ago. They are not technically merged, but a few people have tweeted them on top of each other as like, this is the way to interpret this graph. The graph is technically, here's how conservatives think, and it's like family and anything neighbor is the most important. Here's how liberals think, climate, civilizations on the other side of the world,
big picture,
etc. They're disengaged from, their mom offended them, so they don't talk to their mom anymore. So like less central focused on things close. And so then Ordo Amoris, ordered, loves, like love the things closest to you first. The generative take on the liberal view of things, it's like everything is in the image of God. Imago Dei. That came up somewhere in a comment related to a point that I don't know if we're going to be able to tie in, but
fair enough.
Okay. Final bell. Shire values.
Shire
Ding, ding,
values.
ding, ding.
All your strength,
Wait.
all your power, all your love.
15. One more round. There's no stopping this now. This is our round. Don't stop it now. Just start. We don't stop. All your strength, all your power, all your love, everything you've got. This whole life to do it now.
And we're back. We didn't make it to Mordor, but we could see it from here.
We turned around. We were like, hey,
We turned around.
we'll
That
keep
sounds
it
kind of
around.
nice.
We're gonna use the AI at the Shire. It's okay. We'll appropriate.
AI told us to just let the Eagles bring it there.
Yeah. If it gets out of hand, we'll leave it. But for now,
We're back in the Shire. Had some good memories, and we're also finishing up the small towns here. So, savor it while it lasts. We'll probably be back on this topic when we start recycling our topics, and every 7 years. So, 7 years from now. Matt, what do we got? Final bell.
Final bell. So we're going to talk about, I guess, we'll each go around, maybe pick one or two small town / Shire values or virtues. And just what are the virtues, values that would make the Shire come about?
I got something. So when this will make up for my silence earlier, I got some content here. When I was doing biking for babies, we were doing, it's like we were doing a tour essentially. Every night you'd stop at a parish, who was hosting you, for dinner, and you'd mix and mingle with parishioners and of course, Jimmy and I would tell the story of how Biking for Babies got started, and there'd be, someone telling a story from the day. But I thought really hard, like, why am I the way I am? Like, why do I care about this? Because, it's good and well to refer to, somewhat, I don't know. I mean, it's because abstract can sort of like give a sense of like it doesn't matter, because it obviously does matter. The life of a child in the womb. But yeah, what made me care about that, and relaying it to Biking for Babies too. And so I've sort of started coining this term whenever the Biking for Babies people ask me to say something interesting, and it's Biking for Babies is about doing hard things for people you love. And that is sort of the through line that stuck out to me from growing up in the Shire, Freeburg. My family, that was a natural tether to Biking for Babies, doing hard things for people you love. And the specifics of that, of course, is the St. Joe's Parish picnic, where it's fun as hell, of course, but you got so much standing all night at the Win-A-Fish stand, chasing ping pong balls or the ball roll, and and then having to take down the stands, and going to 4-H meetings at 7:00 on the first Saturday of every month, and tossing hay bales for Dave Bury. Right? It's like it's this. I mean, growing up, I knew that we were pro-life. Like, I would have easily been able to answer that question. Oh yeah, that's the right thing to do. But it was living. It's like that belief was clearly implied by the decisions that my parents and other adults in our community sort of portrayed. And so then in college, when it became something of like, okay, well, what do you really think about this? It was like, oh yeah, well, of course that's where I stand, because that's where I've always stood. Yep, sort of a broad answer, but that's Biking for Babies basically started because of the small town value of doing hard things for people you love.
I think to echo that, say the same thing in my own way and bring it back to Lord of the Rings, is like when we talked about Shire virtues, I thought of the word responsibility in the sense of like not forced responsibility as if someone was like forcing you to do it, but forced responsibility in the sense of like the situation requires it. So I thought of my family. It was like, so I grew up in a small town, and like, yeah, my mom did everything as far as the kids, the school, everything. My dad ran a business, was provided like food and groceries for the people, and he also was on the fire department. Right. So in some ways that's kind of romantic. Like, oh, you'll rush into a fire to save someone's life. But what that really means is like you're giving up time and nights away from your family to like be ready to do that. So it's like this sense of like forced responsibility. Again, not like forced upon you, but like the situation forces it or requires it. And I think in some ways that's why like the Shire or the small town is built up to succeed, because it forces it. Like a struggle I've had in adult life in Springfield, Illinois is like, well, where am I forced to be responsible or to contribute? And it's not as obvious in the big city as it is in the small town. Yeah, so I feel like in some ways the forced responsibility of the small town, though, like prepares you for the big things later. In the Lord of the Rings, Frodo was ready to accept the burden of the ring. And all of that entailed, perhaps because of what he had seen. where if someone had lived in a place where there was no responsibility or I forget the Viking for Movies phrase, doing hard things for those that you love, when that wasn't like a forced way of life, it seems like that would be a harder ask to take the ring to Mordor, have a large family, and I mean, we could go on and on, but so I feel like that's when I say forced responsibility, I say that in a very positive way, but I feel like that is a Shire value that I think of.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Building off of forced responsibility, I think that goes along with the complete lack of anonymity in the Shire. There is, everybody knows everybody, and so could be stifling. But the nature of it is also, you have a responsibility to everyone else to kind of uphold what the community is about. And there's certainly probably edges to push, but it does keep a culture intact. And I think that's the reason people, it's probably the negative reason of small towns and Shire values, but it is what exists there. And there's expectations of people placed on them. You could call it judgment, etc. I think that's one. I'll also add another one. I think an aspect of Shire small townness is going back to Wendell's boomers versus stickers. You have to be at peace with accepting at peace with and abundantly grateful with accepting your place and what you can do for those around you without constantly looking to a fear of missing out on something that, as we read earlier, is just money and progress, whatever that means, and perhaps it's even coming to a maturity earlier, not in age, that like those things are somewhat vapid and not meaningful. And I think that's a Shire value.
I might go a little more concrete here. So one Shire value I'm going to say is gardening, right? So explicitly mentioned, right? Love for good, everything that grows, good soil, like and all that. So I think a few things maybe that flow from that. One, I think it's inherently anti-consumerist and kind of trains you out of that mindset. One thing that drives me nuts when people say it is like, oh yeah, I used to garden, but then I was like, wait, I could just go to the grocery store and buy this for cheaper with no effort. That's the exact opposite of the point of gardening. You're kind of cooperating with the earth, right? You're tied to the soil, to the rhythms God built into the universe. I think certainly the more people garden, if let's just say everyone in the United States produces 2% of their own food, that's going to make actually a big difference for the entire world, in terms of like inflation, whatever else. Sure, there's money that goes into a garden. I don't know. I can't help but suspect that producing your own food, to some degree, even if it's minute, wouldn't be, just a good thing economically. But I think it just trains you to not think in terms of, if I do this, how much money will I make from it, right? Which is an important lesson to learn, right? There are a lot of things that you do for your friends or for your family that aren't tied to any of that, and you need to live outside of that. And I also think you see God's providence and abundance in kind of unique ways. Like We have 1 million volunteer cherry tomato plants coming up. Like, didn't plant them. Actually don't particularly want them where they're growing, but they're there, right? Like, God has ordered the universe such that those things are they're going to keep perpetuating. And I think there's something beautiful there. The other concrete thing is sharing stories with others, whether it's your story, whether it's like local stories, which admittedly I don't have a lot of those being a transplant in Peoria, but or just your favorite stories, right? I think just you become part of the collective of stories at large, right? Certainly within your community, but also just broader picture of people. The important parts stick, right? There might be slightly different versions of Jack and the Beanstalk than the one I tell my boys at the dinner table, but the important parts are going to stick, and the important parts are going to create this sort of archetype by which I think future generations will form themselves, and they're going to form themselves in a way that they can relate to others, right? Now you have the basis for community. Now you have the basis for friendship in the form of storytelling and that sort of stuff. So it's a garden, tell stories.
Good choices. Well, it's been great moseying around the small towns of our minds, hearts, and memories here. But what's next? Speeches by big city people. Speeches
I don't know.
by drug lords. I don't know. Whatever it is, you'll hear it here first. So until then, thanks for drinking.
And thinking.
With us.
Hey, be safe out there, will you? Until next time, cue the music. Nice. Good show, boys. Good weekend.
Look toward the horizon. Up ahead you'll find a peace of mind, relief from the trying. I have burned a bridge, wrecked in a ditch, had to ask forgiveness. Dead ends come and go. Look toward the horizon. Oh, there are stories to tell. The times we grew and the times we fell. Oh, I've been afraid some days, but the road will lead us to a better place. Road will lead us to a better place.
Welcome to the big speech. This is still our fake speech segment. We got Ross, Mike, Matt, and Landon here. Our selector of the speech this evening is Ross.
All right. Thanks for welcoming me, Landon. Before we jump in, I would just like to welcome everybody with a quick shout out. So we're here with Mike Pippin Schaefer.
Love Lord of the Rings. Love every single movie.
We got Landon Mary Free.
Sure.
And we got Matt Treebeard Schultz.
What up? I had to make up for being named Charles last week after Charles Barkley, I assume.
We've gone over this, Matt. Charles Schultz, the cartoonist you were named after. Hey, Matt, despite not bringing headphones or a microphone to this, what did you bring to the show tonight that will be...
Am I allowed to talk about this on the show?
I don't think anyone's going to hear it until after the fact.
Well, I've got one of these. And for those of you who are not watching the live stream cast of the show, one of these is a gorgeous diamond ring, 3-stone diamond ring on 14 karat yellow gold with a white gold like center thingy underneath the stones.
Oh, a center thingy.
Oh yeah, center thingies. They're all the rage these days. But yeah, so I will be proposing to my girl Claire this weekend.
That's weekend?
Yeah, like in 2 days.
Whoa.
Whoa.
It's happening.
For those of our listeners, Matt, he's been on the prowl for a while. We've all watched him grow up in many ways. We've seen him fail many ways. We've seen him borrow cars on dates. And this is a big step for him. So we're all rooting for him.
Really?
Hope she says yes.
The last step.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that flattering intro, Mike.
Don't worry. If she says no, we will just cut this out.
Good.
So, is there any theme of engagement to tie back into our topic this evening? Any bread?
Well,
I couldn't think of a more engaging story than Lord of the.
all right. I'll take it off from here.